Hey everybody, this is going to be a video for Jake. Jake is a viewer of the channel. He sent me an email, and he was asking me, you know, he's driving for one of the large carriers pulling a flatbed, and he wanted to know what it would take to get into pulling an RGN, and asked my advice on how to do that. He'd also asked about driving a truck for his friend and so on and so forth, and mentioned he does have some experience turning wrenches and everything else, and he's done a little bit of oversize. And Jake, my advice to you is go for it. Get out there, get after it, and find a company that does RGNs in your area. There should be plenty of them out there. And I'm actually going to steer you to a group on Facebook that I go through where there's you might be able to get a little bit better answer for this question of where the companies are, seeing as how you live in the Northeast, which I'm not familiar with the Northeast at all. But what Jake had asked me was, do you want to go to work for someone like ATS and get some experience there, or do you just want to search for a smaller company? And here's my answer to that. I personally, this is my personal preference and my opinion, I would not work for ATS. I looked at going to work for them once. I did some research on the company, so this is my opinion, but it's based on the research that I've done. And in my opinion, I think ATS is like the Swift of the flatbed industry. They're the Swift of the heavy haul, it really is what it is. And I don't like the way that they do business. I don't like the way that they have cut a lot of the rates in the industry. And so professionally speaking, I am not going to lease a truck to them. So that being said, when you look at the companies that are out there, if you're going to go to a larger fleet, as much as I do not like them, TMC might be a good place to get a start on that, because they do a lot of step deck stuff and they do a lot of RGN. And if you go to them specifically looking to get RGN experience, that might not be a bad place to start, and you might be able to get something there if you're going to a larger fleet. I have some issues with TMC because I used to be a lease operator over at Yellowstone, and TMC was bought by Yellowstone, and I have some serious problems with how they handled that whole thing, and ultimately I left over there because of that. And Yellowstone Trucking no longer exists because of that merger. They just ran it into the ground, and it ceased to be. And so because of that, I've always kind of had a bone to pick with TMC. But if you're looking for a place to get solid experience, I think that you could do it there, because they do provide training there, and they seem to have a solid training program, or at least, you know, it's going to be more than you're going to get a lot of other places. But it sounds to me like you already have a good deal of experience. You've already run the equipment some, things like that. You've already done a lot of turning wrenches. So at that point, you're really looking at, okay, what kind of a company can you hire? I'm sure there's a company in your area. Oh, I'm getting a phone call. And they hung up. Okay. So, I'm sure there's going to be plenty of companies in your area. What I would do is I would get on Google, and I would just search for heavy haul trucking, and just look for the areas around where you live, and look for trucking companies that do that type of stuff. You know, keep an eye out at the truck stops and start to talk to people, because those are going to be your best resources. Like I said, I know nothing about the Northeast. It sounds to me like you got a pretty good handle on things, though, with what you're doing. If you've already been turning wrenches, you've already operated some machinery, you know, you've got a really good opportunity to get your foot in the door there. Way more than most people that ask me, because I get a lot of guys that ask me, and they're pulling a dry box. They're like, how do I do what you do? And I'm like, well, go get a bunch of flatbed experience first. It sounds like you already have the flatbed experience. So what I would start doing if I was you is I would go into the truck stops, and when you see someone in there with an RGN, go over and talk to them. Ask them if they know anybody. Tell them you're wanting to get into it. Because a lot of times, you know, a place like that's going to be looking for people that are good, qualified people, because they can't hire just any idiot to do this. You've got to have good people to take care of this stuff. So that's my advice to you there. You know, you're going to have to do a little bit of hunting and searching. I think going to a small company right away is going to do you a lot better, especially if that small company has experienced hands there that have been doing this for a while. Because you have people at a company that have been doing this for 20 or 30 years. Those are the guys that if you cling on to them and you just ask them all kinds of questions, generally they're really happy to help. Because when you ask people questions and you ask them how you should do things, it does make them feel So that's, you know, a tool you can use to your advantage. I'd say go in and start looking for a situation like that. You should have no problems. With that, I'm going to wrap this video up. If you guys that are also watching this video have any advice you'd like to throw at Jake, you can do so at the comments down below. I'm going to go ahead and make sure this video gets forwarded to him so he sees it. We'll catch up with y'all later.